What is up, beautiful people? I'm Chris from TechSpert, and today we're going to be taking a good hard look at the new iQOO 9T Legend. And that's right, morphos, this time around I actually learned how to say iQOO. I'm talking about the Vivo IQOO 9 Pro. And this fresh new flagship smartphone is an absolute stunner inside as well as out. It's powered by the beefy Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset. Camera tech is a 50 meg Samsung GN1 sensor with a V1 Plus processing chip. Ooh, fancy. Lots of other proper good specs, and it's all packed inside of a design inspired by the BMW M Motorsport partnership. So enough wibbling on, let's whip the iQOO 9T on out of its rather attractive premium style box here, take you on a full on tour, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do plug subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So step 1, open that box. Step 2, what's in that box besides the iQOO 9T, of course? Well, you've got a big old beefy Vivo 120 watt flash charge adapter, bit of Type-C USB cable action. You've got a flexi condom case to wrap around your iQOO 9T Legend, keep it nice and safe. And you've got a picture of a car, presumably a BMW M Motorsport car. It's a nice yellow car, like it a lot. And that's your bally lot, so let's get onto the phone. Now, if you like your smartphones a bit on the big side, the Vivo IQOO 9T Legend should just about suffice. It's 6.78 inches. It is a proper hand filler. Weighs just over 200 grams, so it's definitely got a bit of a heft to it as well, as you'd expect from a smartphone this size. That display is completely flat and fills pretty much the entire front end of this smartphone, quite skinny bezels surrounding it. And I'll tell you what, it's really nice to have a smartphone that doesn't have big, fat, chunky, flat edges, which seems to be the norm in 2022. It's kind of coming back into fashion, which I don't understand. I really don't like it. I blame those bloody iPhones. But on the other hand, the iQOO 9T Legend feels really nice and comfy to clutch despite its gargantuan size, thanks to the nice curved edges and corners. You've got an aluminium frame. I do like the blue highlighted on the power button there. And then if we flip around to the arse end, you've got an AG glass finish. It's a similar sort of design to the original iQOO 9, except now you've got this cut off up just before the camera chassis where the entire top half is glossy and black. The bottom half is still matte, thankfully, so highly resistant to fingerprints and greasy marks, especially if you're scoffing a KFC at the same time. But you still have those racing stripes up on the bottom half where the iQOO logo lies. Gotta say, I'm not entirely convinced by the little mantra here. Fascination meets innovation? I mean, I'm fascinated to know just how they came up with that one. So even though I'm not really a fan of massive smartphones, gotta say I do like the look of the iQOO 9T Legend, even though it hasn't changed up a massive amount from the previous generation. No official IP rating, unfortunately, so don't go dunking it in the bath, taking it in the shower with you, any of that shenanigans just in case. So software, and of course you've got Android 12 here on the iQOO 9T Legend, but slathered over the top of that is the always entertainingly named FunTouch OS, because touching is fun, as long as you get permission first. And this does add quite a lot of bonus customization features and other bonus bits as well, so you can change up pretty much every aspect of the UI. You can even add a little touchscreen animation, which is rather enjoyable. My favourite being naturally the little hearts that pop up when you drag your finger across that screen. Play around with the transitions, the fingerprint animations, even the charging animations. Got some other pretty standard bonus bits like the ultra gaming mode, which I'll touch on in the performance bit. And thank the baby Jesus, yes, you do get a dedicated one-handed mode as well, which really helps out with a smartphone this kind of size. But besides all that, it's a fairly stock version of Android here. You've got your Google Discover feed, you can drag down the notifications from anywhere. Do have a fair bit of crapware though. Half the stuff I've got no idea what it even is. Baiju's The Learning app. Well, I'm already super smart, so obviously don't need that. Cred, PhoneP, and of course the usual crap like Facebook. And then you do have some useful apps tucked in there as well, like iManager, which can scan your phone, make sure everything is tickety-boo, get rid of any clutter that's on there, etc. And speaking of clutter, you've got a choice of 128 or 256 gigs of space with the iQOO 9T. I believe the Legend Edition comes with 256 as standard. Only 27 gigs of this is used up by system files, so plenty of spare storage for all of your various bits, just as well because there's no space for a microSD memory card in that double-sided SIM tray. And to actually unlock the iQOO 9T Legend, well, it is an in-display fingerprint sensor, just a basic optical effort, but seems to do the job nicely. You've got Face Unlock Smart on there as well, so overall a pretty tidy software setup. Only thing is, I'm not sure how many Android OS updates and how many years of security updates that Vivo is offering with this bad boy. And of course, no denying, media fans should absolutely adore that whopping great 6.78-inch AMOLED display. It is an absolute beast with only a tiny little selfie orifice cut out intruding on the action when you do go full screen, and it is wedged up very close to the edge so it only barely intrudes. It's a full HD plus resolution, which is perfectly fine. Even for a screen of this size, those visuals look nice and crisp. You got your 10-bit color support, your HDR10 plus streaming support, so Netflix fans, Disney Plus fans, you'll be treated to absolute eye candy here. Got sharp contrast, you've got punchy colors, you've got wide viewing angles, and on the top brightness, it should just about do the job, even on a sunny day. I don't believe that this is LTPO tech, so the screen refresh rate can dip really low to help save on battery life when you're just viewing static images. But on the other hand, you do have support for up to 120Hz refresh for a nice silky smooth finish. And you've also got yourself a stereo speaker setup like basically every flagship smartphone right now. But is it any good? Let's find out.
Stony P says, this was your most erotic review so far. So many double entendres. Keep it up, mister. Keep it up, eh? Fnar fnar, sure I can oblige.
And yeah, that'll certainly work on that top volume. Nice and powerful, so certainly you'll be able to hear that over absolutely any kind of background noise. The quality wasn't exactly the finest, but never fear because you've got Bluetooth 5.2 streaming support, so you can get a bit of headphone action on the go. You'll have to go wireless though, because there is bugger all headphone jack here on the iQOO 90 Legend as usual. So now performance, and this is one of the major upgrades here on the iQOO 9T Legend versus the older iQOO 9 smartphone, because you no longer have that Snapdragon 888 Plus chipset bunged in here. Instead, you've got the fresh new Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. Only recently launched and stuffed inside of all the biggest and best Android smartphones of 2022 emerging this summer, including the likes of the Asus Zenfone 9, which I just covered. And it's backed here on my review smartphone by 12 gigs of DDR5 RAM, so as you can see there, solid scores matching most of those other premium smartphones. And yippee hooray, good news for gamers as well, because the iQOO 90 Legend can play the likes of Genshin Impact absolutely perfectly. Certainly on the standard detail levels, it's a flawless frame rate, it is nice and cool to boot. And if you do boost up those graphics settings all the way to the max level, 60 FPS and all that good stuff, well, it can still handle it, no worries. In the special dedicated gaming mode, you can boost up the performance from balanced to monster. This helps to dedicate all of the smartphone's resources to playing your title flawlessly, and indeed Genshin Impact was a wonderful, lovely, super smooth experience. You got proper vapor chamber cooling tech packed inside of the iQOO 90 Legend, just like the previous generation. And again, this seemed to do the job. The top end of the smartphone did get rather toasty though. After about half an hour of play, started to get to the point where my hand was feeling a little bit uncomfortable against that glass back. So certainly if you want to be playing for sort of an hour plus, I'd maybe say shy away. And that gaming mode packs in all kinds of other useful features, including the usual notifications blocking. You can lock the screen brightness. You can also try and either boost the frame rate or just stick for a more stable experience if you prefer. And as for the battery life, the iQOO 90 Legend should happily last you a full day. It's got a 4,700 mAh capacity cell stuffed inside of that gigantic frame. And certainly the battery drain has just been a trickle at best. Even when I've been streaming video, using the camera, and even playing games like Genshin Impact, it hasn't been too bad at all. Just these past couple of hours, I've played Genshin Impact for like 40 minutes, I've streamed a bit of YouTube, I've been showing off all of the various features to you fine folk at home, and it's still on 85% power. And when it does need a recharge, the iQOO 90 Legend offers up 120 watt wired charging support. No wireless charging support, unfortunately, but at least when you bung a cable in that bottom end, you'll get a full charge in around 20 to 25 minutes. And hey, now it's time for the most exciting part of the unboxing video, the camera test. On the back end of the iQOO 90 Legend, you've got a triple lens camera setup. That primary camera sensor is a Samsung 50 megapixel GN1, same as the original iQOO 9. And this does a respectable job with daylight pics. It's not too often that focus will be thrown off or you'll get a cruddy shot, although colours are boosted beyond the norm at times. You've got that V1 Plus processing chip, which supposedly helps out with low light shots, etc. But all the same, indoor and evening shots can be rather soft and noisy, with obvious blur when you're dealing with a moving subject. At any point, you can also swap to a secondary 13 megapixel ultra wide angle shooter if you want a more pulled back view. And sadly, there is no telephoto shooter here on the iQOO 90. What you've got instead is a separate 12 megapixel portrait shooter, uses a different sensor, this one a Sony sensor. You can actually swap between that dedicated portrait lens and just the standard primary lens with a quick tap down here like so. And this gives you a variety of different toggles to play around with, including different filters. You've got a beauty mode you can play around with where you can change up the skin tone, whiten your teeth, all kinds of stuff. And you can actually change the bokeh effect as well. And I found that portrait mode generally works well, cleanly captures your subject while blurring out the background, and no borkiness or anything to speak of. And you've got a small selection of other bonus camera modes you can swap to as well, including a dedicated night mode. This really helps out in those low light scenarios, helps out the focus and just brightens up the overall pic. And if we flick along to more, there's a few other bits packed away in here, including a dedicated pro mode. You've got the 50 megapixel ultra resolution mode. And if you like shooting a bit of home movie action, well, you can capture up to 4K Ultra HD footage at 30 frames per second or 60 FPS. And my sample footage shot on the IQOO 9T Legend was absolutely fine, as long as you're not snapping away in really ambient light, because then everything does look really soft and fuzzy. And then the final camera shoved away on the IQOO 9T Legend is a 16 megapixel selfie snapper. And pics taken with this do often look a bit low res, lacking detail and texture, but it is fine for simple shareable shots, and you've got the usual screen flash shenanigans to help out in low light scenarios. And that selfie cam is pretty good at shooting video as well, at up to full HD resolution at 30 frames per second. Visuals are fine, even indoors, not too grainy, and the audio pickup's really good as well, nice and strong and loud. And there you have it, my lovelies. That in a nutshell is the fresh new IQOO 9T Legend from Vivo. And as you can see, a minor evolution at best over the original IQOO 9. The main difference being the fact you've got that Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 for super beefy, meaty performance, compared with the Snapdragon 888 Plus, which to be fair, is still pretty bloody good. So what do you think? Definitely let me know down in the comments below. Please do click subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech, and have yourselves a bloody wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.